Greetings and blessings wherever you may be. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Bob here, some coffee, and cheers to you, Bob, the AI channel. And greetings and blessings. And I continue to pray that each and every one of you will accept and receive the blessings and the healing from the universe. And I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. With that said, and prayers over, which is a good thing in a way. We have prayer every time and we send each other good greetings. Now, the title of this is one of those impromptu little spirit messages that needed to be discussed because there are a lot of things in the world these days that are happening to people. The fires in California right now, earthquakes, floods, you name it. We got drought going on down here in the South. And the thing is that we have to find out within ourselves what is truly valuable. Now, what do I mean by value? And I'm going to touch on a couple of things here. Now, those folks who are like looking towards the end of the world and the apocalypse and all that kind of thing, gold and silver is what they value. They want to store their riches. When someone like what's going on now with California and previous fires and other catastrophic events, we have these things that are going on. And when people have to leave their homes in a hurry or in a rush or whatever, they say, I'm so glad to get out with my life. And so what is valuable to them, they say, I've lost everything. Now, I have lost everything in a fire. And it is a tragic event. It is very hard to have everything you see go up in flames and there's nothing that you can do about it. But from that lesson, I learned actually what is valuable. My life is valuable. Life is precious in many levels. So for those of us who say, well, what is the value? Well, I lost this and I lost that. Well, if the apocalypse comes, what thing of value can I have? What should be valuable to you is knowledge. Because if you're caught in a situation that is abnormal, like no electricity or storms or the hurricane that came through last year and wiped out a big spot down here in South Georgia, northern Florida, and places in Alabama. But the thing is that you learn what is of value, and you learn truly what is of value. Hi, Dawn, how are you? And so when we stop and think about value of things, all events can be tragic if we allow them to be. But the thing is that there are so many of us now who are looking back on things we've accrued or collected over the years. A friend of mine was here just recently, and we were having the conversation as I've had with other people. We're finding things in our lives that we thought were valuable to us at one time. And now we look at it and go, why do I have this thing? Where did I get it? And why have I been keeping it all this time? So there are a lot of folks who are going through a spiritual transition right now who are recognizing that physical things that used to matter at some previous time now doesn't seem to have any value. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, that we had some kind of attachment before, and it gave us some sense of value. It means something to us for whatever it is. Hello, Truth. How are you? But so in our reality of things in this 3D realm, we have to understand that we can't take none of this stuff with us when we go. Now, so what is truly of value? Is it our human life that's of value? What about our spirit that's attached to this human body? Is that of value? Is friendship valuable? When you lose your house and things go down, there are people who will come out of the woodworks. I know I was surprised when our house burned down. People donated things to us, beds and clothes. And I mean, I didn't even have a pair of shoes. And somebody gave me a pair of shoes when I walked in the store, and the people knew me there. And they were like, what happened? And I said, our house burned down last night. And and I got a couple of bucks on me, and why don't you have any shoes? And I was, because they were in the house when the house burned down. So I got a pair of shoes. Come back here in the back of the store. And he was very adamant that he put shoes on me before I left his store. It was just a little country store, but that's not the point. It's when the people and the friendship and what we share is of value. It's not necessarily those items that we possess or we seem to possess, because when we leave this realm, it's not going to matter. It will have zero value when we leave this planet, when we leave this realm. So what becomes of value now? People say, well, I got a really good deal on an iPhone the other day. What a value deal I got. So is that of a value? Well, in its own respect, it is. Well, they had socks and underwear on sale. It was a really good value, Okay. All right. There's something to that. You know, or I read a really good book the other day and it inspired me spiritually, and that was of value to me. So there are so many different levels of what does value mean. For example, I did a video yesterday or the day before or something. I forget. Old timers disease. Us old timers, we forget things easy. But a recent video that I did, I discussed about how your comments are angel messages, and they absolutely are, because each one of us are angel beings. And when we share with each other, we are sharing that like minded wonderfulness. We're sharing the consciousness, and we're showing each other what is of true value. What is of true value is the fact that there are many of us like minded beings out here that wish the same things, and we keep hoping and praying and working towards that. And we are compassionate in our own ways, and that is of tremendous value. Is so often understated what each individual, what we do as individuals can do on the grand scheme of things. And we have an effect, and that's one of the things that's so important. What is of value? We as human beings have a value. We as spiritual beings within these human bodies have a value. If we share these values with others, then they bring their values forward. They bring their compassion forward. And it's an awakening which is going on. And so we need to pat each other on the back, give ourselves a gold star, because these are some trying times. But, not to bring my age into this, but I remember the 60s. I remember the turmoil with the blacks and the whites and the this and the that. I grew up down here in the South, down in Tampa. I traveled the South with a carnival back in the days when I was 13, 14, and going on up into age. And I've been in Southern Alabama and Georgia and places back in the 60s, a couple of places in Mississippi even. But, to understand what the racialness was, you had to understand how Southerners thought, how the Southern black folks thought, and what their perception was. Everybody wanted to perceive it from a Washington, D.C. point of view, but they weren't really addressing what was socially going on in the South, and with all of the things with the black and the transition and the voting and when Martin Luther King got killed, when President Kennedy got shot. I watched Lee Harvey Oswald get shot that Sunday morning before we went to church. And so it's like there are things that are indelled into my mind. Are things really rough now? Yeah. But man, let me tell you about the 60s. I'm not going into it, but that's just a reference. Let me tell you about the 60s. You think things are tough now? The Cuban Missile Crisis. I lived in Tampa at the time, and Tampa's really close to Cuba. And we were all taught all about, the horrors of atomic weaponry, and what we as residents of Tampa could, because of MacDill Air Force Base and its close proximity to Cuba. And oh my God, you don't think that was scary as crap? We all went to bed at night worrying whether or not we were going to get nuked in the morning, back in those days. And so it's like we don't quite have that kind of level now, thank goodness. But so people who wish to go into panic mode, this isn't about what's better or worse, but for those of my age, we lived through some really weird stuff. You think it's weird now, man, it was weird back then too, on a grand scale. So the idea, and it's just continuing. continued, through the nasty folk who think they can rule us all. But the important part of all of this is, what do we find as value? Do we continue to be just, mindless consumers? No, buy what you need, buy what is necessary. Go ahead and get value for your buck. But at the same point, and I was guilty of this and have been guilty of this, so I can speak about this myself. Oh, walk into the dollar store. Oh my God. And if I got $20, I'm only going to walk out with 18 of it. I'm only going to walk out with two. I'm going to spend 18 of that $20. And I get home and I think, what the hell did I buy this for? I don't know. It's nice and flashy and interesting in the store. And I end up with 18 bucks worth of stuff. And I'm like, but that was my last $20. Oh, but we had fun shopping in the store. And it's addictive. It really is. And I realized, holy crap, I was buying things that actually had no value, going back to that verse. So we buy things because they're glittery and fun or new or whatever, but we have to stop and check ourselves and go, wait a minute, does this actually have a value to me? That's all. It doesn't mean that you can't buy it, but what are you going to do with it when you get home? I mean, there are certain things that really don't have a value. You think at the time and you're convinced that it is a value and that you want it, need it, or whatever it is that we convince ourselves of. I'm guilty of this, I'm here to tell you. But I've had to stop in my spiritual awareness. Oop, got it, Bob. Here's some coffee for you. Maybe we need to wake you up in there, Bob. Little glitching going on. So, but in the spiritual revolution that each of us are going through, we have to reassess who we are. And in reassessing, it's very simple. You say, wait a minute, what is truly of value here? Does buying this thing have any value? Does it gives me a short-term, hi, I bought something in the store, look what I bought, and bring it home, and you got packages, and it's like Christmas time. I go through this, have gone through it, but I realize that, wait a minute, some of this is just not necessary. And as much as I don't buy into consumerism, I'm guilty of it because I go through the dollar store and I see flashing things and buy them. And and now I've got a dozen of these things. I find out, wait a minute, I've already bought 4 of these, and there's a one over here that I still haven't taken out of the package. It's some kind of kitchen utensil I could never find, and now I got 6 of them. What? Okay. It's this mindless thing of, well, maybe I need a new one or something like that, whatever goes through our head. But anyway, the biggest thing in understanding from a shaman's point of view, a shaman will look at you and say, now, okay, you bought that. What is the value of it? Well, but, it's a new iPhone and it's got all these, but wait, what is the value of it? What does it do for you? Well, I can check my email and I can do this. Yeah, but what value is it of you? Well, but I can carry around this computer all the time. But what is the value of it? But I just told you all these things. Yeah, but what does that mean in the real world? How often do you need to check your email? How often do you need to text somebody? How really important is some of this mindless stuff you do? And so you have to take stock and say, well, wait a minute. I can text someone if it's of value, or I'll send a picture onto somebody if it's of some type of value. If you're like, oh, here's a picture of me today, click and send it on to everybody, is that of any great value? Not to say you shouldn't or can't, but that's not the point. What's the value? So everybody stops and, oh, look, here's a picture of such and such. What's the value of it? Well, it's a nice picture, and yet that. But what's the greater value in this? It's just mindless stuff that they taught us to do with these devices that keep us from being who we are. Send it when it's necessary. Use it. Use the AI, if you will, for your intents and purposes. Don't allow it to rule you. So absolutely send a picture if it's necessary or you think it's of value, but reassess things. Just because you're used to doing it doesn't mean it has a value to it. And when you send something to somebody else, is this of value to them, or do I think it's of value to them? Oh, I want you to look at this site. Well, okay, but do you really think it's of value to me? And I look at things, and some folks have sent me things, and it's just like, but that's interesting, but it has no value to me. It doesn't mean I don't like the subject, or shame on those people who sent me a link. That's not the point. The point is, if I share something, I'm hoping it will be of some value, but there are people who will hang on and listen to the video, and other people say, well, I got what I needed out of this and move on. That's what we do. We find what we need that is of value to us, whether it be a message, a picture, or a thing. So what is of value to us may not necessarily be the same, have the same value to someone else. Our spiritual awareness and the way we try to look at the universe as this ever expanding, humongous thing beyond belief versus a gated community called heaven. So where do we want to believe with this? What is of value? Do we wish to spend our time trying to conform to some type of religious belief so we fit in somewhere? Or we continue on our own spiritual journeys because it has more value to us. We learn more between each other in sharing and understanding the universe than any religious book can do, because we're sharing actual experiences with each other. We're proving to each other that this ESP thing works. We're proving to each other that positive energy sent to people and blessings and so forth, and how we listen to ourselves, and we get people out of jams, and if somebody's near you and you can help, we're pitching in. And that is of tremendous value versus all of these other worldly things. Our friendship together, our like-minded beings, that's of tremendous value. And the other side would definitely like us to not do this, simply because we've learned a secret that they've been trying to keep quiet for a long time. We have value as spiritual beings that we can use in this 3D reality, and we share. And so I wanted to put this out there. I've got company, and I need to see my good friend here, but I wanted to put that out to you, and there may be more discussion on this, but what is of value is important. So I close with my prayer as usual. I want to always say, be sure be sure that you look inside yourself for the compassion that you know you have, and share it locally with everyone that you can. Always be compassionate. That's the key thing. The next thing in line is, as I close with this prayer, is, and thank you all, Truth, Pyramid. I need to close this off and take and do some personal business here, but know that I love you. I close with the prayer. I continue to pray that each and every one of you will accept and receive the knowledge, the gifts, and the healing from the universe. I continue to pray that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, and all of your relations will accept and receive the healing and the blessing from the universe. And as the law of three states, I continue, you too out there, Ian, and cheers back to you. I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to accept, receive, and share the healing, the wisdom of the universe with others. Keep up the good work, my friends. Reconsider what is of value to you. And until next time, from South Georgia and Hawkeye Two Feathers, TTFN, keep it between the ditches, y'all.